This is Ali Khan Mehmudabad, an associate professor of political science at Haryana-based Ashoka University. He was arrested by the Haryana police in Delhi on Sunday. The reason? His Facebook posts on Operation Sindoor. Two complaints were filed against him, one of them by a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party's Yuva Morcha. Among the several charges slapped on Professor Mehmudabad are sedition, that is endangering the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. The Haryana Women's Commission, which is the other complainant, said the professor in his posts disparaged women officers in the Indian Armed Forces and promoted communal disharmony. Following his arrest, a local court that is, sent him to 2-day police custody. This morning, that is the 19th of May, the Supreme Court agreed to an early listing of a petition challenging the professor's arrest. Senior advocate Kapil Sibal mentioned the matter before Chief Justice of India B.R. Gavai and Justice Augustine George Massey. And the Chief Justice, when told about the matter by Kapil Sibal, agreed to list it early. Meanwhile, other faculty members at Ashoka University, top academicians and activists across the country have slammed Professor Mehmudabad's arrest, calling it unlawful and an attempt to stifle free speech. But what exactly did Professor Ali Khan Mehmudabad say in his post? And is this the first time a senior professor has had to face trouble for their views? Hello and welcome, I'm Shubham Chauhan. Let's get started. So the story starts on the 8th of May. This was one day after India launched Operation Sindoor. As part of Operation Sindoor, India's armed forces struck 9 terror sites, killing over 100 terrorists in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. On 8th May, this is what Professor Mehmudabad posted on Facebook. It's a long post and we'll play it on your screen. In the first paragraph, Professor Mehmudabad observes that Operation Sindoor has changed all notions about India-Pakistan relations. He says India has made it very clear that a terrorist attack will be met with a military response. In Operation Sindoor, he adds, India's armed forces ensured that no civilian and military installations were targeted. He then goes on to say that why war must be avoided. In fact, to quote him, war is brutal. The poor suffer disproportionately and the only people who benefit are politicians and defense companies. While war is inevitable because politics is primarily rooted in violence, at least human history teaches us this, we have to realize that political conflicts have never been solved militarily. In the last part of his post, Professor Mehmudabad says he was happy to see right-wing commentators laud Colonel Sophia Qureshi. Remember, Colonel Qureshi, along with Wing Commander Vyomika Singh and India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, were the face of India's briefings on Operation Sindoor. This visual of the two officers showing what the Indian Armed Forces did was hailed widely. Two women officers taking center stage. Professor Mehmudabad points out that the right wing should be equally loud in their support of the victims of mob lynchings and bulldozers. He says the optics of two women soldiers presenting their findings is important, but optics must translate to reality on ground. Otherwise, it is just hypocrisy. He also goes on to talk about how communalism has infected India and its politics. So that was one Facebook post. His next post came on the 11th of May. Again, a lengthy one where he calls out those who keep advocating and trivializing war. Those giving calls like wipe them out, finish them, destroy them. Professor Mehmudabad goes on to elaborate why war is not the solution, given the costs involved in one, especially the human cost on both sides. He said, those far from the border seem to think that war is some kind of a video game. This dehumanization is symptomatic of deep-seated insecurities within us because we somehow need to deny someone else's humanity to affirm our own. But the reality is that the minute we dehumanize someone else, even though they might represent the opposite of everything we stand for, then we have given in to our basest instincts. We have sown the seeds of our own destruction. So these are the two posts that he put out. Now you may agree with Professor Mehmudabad's views or disagree with it. A healthy or even aggressive argument may take place. But ideally you would expect things to end there. Like they say, agree to disagree. But what followed was a nightmare. On 12th May, one day after his second Facebook post, the Haryana State Commission for Women issued a notice to the professor. The commission had taken cognizance of his remarks on their own. It said the professor had disparaged women officers in the Indian Armed Forces and promoted communal disharmony. The panel gave the professor time till the 14th of May to appear before them. On 14th, the professor put out a detailed statement, where in this statement he made 3 broad points. First, the Haryana State Commission for Women has no jurisdiction whatsoever in this matter, that he has not made any remark which is anti-women or disrespecting them in any way whatsoever. Second, his comments were completely misinterpreted and taken out of context. And third, that he was exercising his right to free speech by expressing his views online. The same day, Ashoka University also put out a statement saying the professor's comments were made in his individual capacity and that the university stands with India's armed forces. On 15th of May, Haryana State Commission for Women chairperson Renu Bhatia visited the campus, that is Ashoka University, and spoke to the officials there. Speaking to reporters after that, she claimed that the professor was sent on leave deliberately. She threatened the professor to show up before the panel by 23rd of May. Bhatia then went on to say that as per SOP, an FIR would be filed against him in case he failed to appear. Professor Mehmudabad continued to maintain that his remarks were twisted and completely misrepresented. On May 16th, Bhatia wrote to Haryana DGP calling for an FIR to be filed against the professor. And this instruction was then followed promptly by the cops. By Saturday, 2 FIRs were lodged against the professor, one by Bhatia and the other by a person called Yogesh Jatheri. The latter is General Secretary of the ruling BJP's youth wing, that is Bharatiya Janata Yuva Morcha in Haryana. He is also the Sarpanch of Sonepat's Jatheri village. The FIRs has charged Ali Khan Mehmudabad under non-bailable sections of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. These include sections 152, that, like I said, is sedition, 196, promoting enmity between different groups on grounds of religion, place, birth, etc. And then you have section 197, that is imputations, assertions, that is prejudicial to national integration, and 299, that is deliberate and malicious acts intended to outrage religious feelings of any class by insulting its religion or beliefs. The print reported that at around 6:30 a.m., a team of 15 Haryana police personnel entered the professor's Delhi residence and took him into custody. His wife is reportedly 9 months pregnant. The university said on Sunday that it was made aware about the professor's arrest and said they will cooperate with the authorities in this matter. Many online called out the arrest of the professor and point out that this is an attack on free speech. In fact, if you look at Ashoka University in recent years, several top academicians have had to bear the brunt for their views. In August 2023, Professor Sabyasachi Das resigned following a row over his research paper. He was part of the Department of Economics. Professor Das published a research paper called Democratic Backsliding in World's Largest Democracy. In this paper, he claimed that the BJP won a disproportionate share of seats in closely contested constituencies in the 2019 Lok Sabha election. This paper was widely shared on social media. And then, of course, the university distanced itself from the professor and the paper. In 2016, Professor Rajendra Narayanan had to resign for signing a petition which condemned the violence over militant Burhan Wani's death and called for a plebiscite in Jammu and Kashmir. In 2021, Professor Pratap Bhanu Mehta, who was the Vice Chancellor of Ashoka, quit after the university's founders made it clear to him that he was a political liability for them. Now, Professor Mehta is an eminent scholar on politics, constitutional law and political economy. Former Chief Economic Advisor in the Modi government and a fellow professor, Arvind Subramanian, put in his papers in protest. Now, academicians point to this worrying trend and how campuses are increasingly being intolerant to a diversity of views. This is having a direct bearing on the freedom of speech, with Professor Mehmudabad's arrest being the latest one. And remember, this also comes at a time when you have politicians from the Bharatiya Janata Party talking distasteful remarks about India's armed forces and Colonel Sophia Qureshi. And so far, there is no action against them, let alone any sort of calls for resignation. And this is the case that I'm talking to you about, is about a minister in the Madhya Pradesh government, a video on which was done by us earlier. So these are the two cases that you have, and of course, the results and the findings and the outrage and what is happening after that is there for you to see. That's all we have for this report. Thanks for watching.